The Monty Show.
There he is.
How are you, man? Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
You too. Cheers.
I saw you at the warehouse sale.
Oh,
it was crazy.
Yeah, the bucked up one they had a few months ago. That was huge.
Yeah, people were mobbing me when I was trying to talk to you.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Hey man, how's it going? Good to see you.
How's it going?
This is
Hey,
Jake.
what's up, man?
Hey, how you
nice
doing?
To meet you.
Jake?
Yeah,
Jake.
Cheers.
Nice to meet you, man.
You too, man.
Yeah, so come on in.
Yeah, no worries.
Please, you speak my language though.
Yeah.
Like,
Let's go.
Do you like the shots?
Yeah, I love them.
I do that all.
Like
So good.
we stock it we drink one on the show every day. Like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, we can have you sit there and
Yeah,
we can
no
have you
worries.
sit there and Jake, you want to close that door?
It'll be yours.
Okay.
And Calum, this will be yours. You
Yeah.
can just swing that towards you.
Yeah.
You want to keep that close to you?
Yeah.
The video you did at the Arnold talking about your brother and I think the word is courage. The courage you showed, nobody would have known what was going on. And frankly, probably people would have cared.
Yeah.
But I think it was so amazing to watch you operate in that space, knowing what was really going on inside your head.
Yeah.
Like
That was tough. That was hard. That was
Yeah,
tough.
that was a tough.
I don't know if compartmentalizing does it justice.
That was a
You
real
should have
like.
seen. He put on a great face.
But yeah, that
and
was a.
he was after the show and
I had to
before we went there, he was like, I don't know.
I went live. We had to go out a few times, and I think it was lunch when we went out to get some lunch, and I just broke down. But then I just covered it all back up again. You know, put on a mask and be like, oh, "This is, just I got to hold face and be strong for right now for the the people that are out here come to see me. It was a strange, hard.
But then you think about also, man, think about what everybody was saying in the comments, like how good it was to see you. Because I think we all missed you on Instagram.
Yeah.
That's where I missed you the most. Like when you weren't doing Instagram.
yeah.
That's where, because that's everybody's daily.
It's the check-in. That's the what's going. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. Absolutely.
And I remember the post you put up wearing the jacket and I think you had on a bucked up T-shirt where you said like, "Hey, I'm back."
Yeah.
like-
right. That's right. Yeah.
Was that therapeutic at all when you're doing a post like that? What is that like?
I mean, it's nice, and that was a strange time as well. Like, 'cause it was like, hey, I've taken this long stint of time off, for myself, and so I mean, it was kind of nice just to be able to address my audience again, and say, hey, like, thanks for hanging out and supporting and trusting me, and to say that I'm coming back it was a little bit scary as well. I won't lie, because I had so much time off, like downtime, and I'd have forgotten what it was like to be on social media a little bit, and I was a little bit like overwhelmed. Like,
It was.
a little bit like, oh, what am I? Okay, I'm getting back into this, this arena.
Mm-hmm.
So, but once when you have like people like Ryan and friends, good friends, and that are all just encouraging you and say, hey, you're doing great and you look good and everything. It all goes, any worries, they all just go under the rug.
But if you go back to your brother dragging you to the gym, right?
Yeah.
If you just go back to your brother dragging you to the gym to now sitting right here in this chair in this moment in this time, has it all been worth it?
Yeah, absolutely. Because without his initial kind of like nudge and encouragement in taking me to the gym at the start, I would never have probably developed such a strong discipline and dedication to myself and my training, and I would never have been able to travel and go to so many different places, meet so many amazing people, and do some incredible things in the short amount of time that I've been here. So, going from that initial start, and then landing here at your show, the Monty Show, it's pretty significant. It's a full 360. Most people don't get anywhere near the opportunities that I've had, to travel. And it was such an interesting time too, because when I started at the gym, it was like 2005, 2004, right? And there was no social media,
right?
It was just
get in and grind.
It was just a radio, a cassette player. You put a cassette in, play some tunes, and we'd run down the gym and lift weights and everything. And for like 10 years or 8 years of it was just so the training, the workouts were incredibly good. They were the best times of the best trainings that I've ever had was before I even had a phone, and we'd go to the gym, we'd run out of the shop, eat a chicken, a tub of yogurt, go to the beach. It was just a great routine. And then, social media. I think magazines everything was all
Remember
all
all the
magazines
and everything.
right?
Yeah.
And then
It was big.
and then slowly, Facebook came and Instagram. That's right. And I kind of just appeared right when social media was coming up as well. So me and a few other different influencers and fitness guys were utilizing it really well. And
Like Steve Cook.
I think
was a
Bradley
big one.
Martin.
Yeah.
For sure.
Steve Cook was a big.
Steve Cook.
Yeah, exactly.
But they instantly got millions and millions of followers right away.
Right.
So
it was just,
they had a really good social media following.
Yeah. And it definitely wasn't until I came to America when it all just kind of went like in the fast lane, because everything's a little bit slower, down under. It's not as we don't have as much. I think like networking and possibilities and all that sort of stuff, and there's a lot more. There's just so much more happening here. So.
Were you aware in the moment though when you became you? When you left behind that kid that got drugged to the gym to spot for your brother, or what I don't know, is the word innocence? Were you aware in the moment when Calum Von Moger was born to the fitness world? Do you know when that happened?
Hang on. So
When you surpassed your brother,
Oh,
when you knew when you knew that, hey, I'm taking over.
Yeah, I do kind of remember because it was right around. He was actually because he was always bigger and stronger, and I was always like, crap, I've got to catch up to him. I want to beat him because he was just a weapon at everything, and then it wasn't until I was just about catching him. I was like, I can almost outbench him, not yet, but. It was right up there, and then all of a sudden he changed gears, and he goes, "I'm going into the special forces, into the military." So
wow.
he started training specifically for that. So his training changed, and he was just going doing these pack marches and these circuits and all these different kind of hardcore training stuff, which I tried a little bit of. I was like, I couldn't even keep up with him. But then
That's like CrossFit.
yeah, exactly, and that's when I realized, okay, now I can gain some, because he didn't want the mass anymore. I was like, all right,
Right.
Now I've got the pipes, the biceps, and the, and that's when also I'm not gonna, he decided to go to the military, and that was when I realized I was stealing all of his protein powders and stuff. I was taking all of his stuff, and then I kind of caught him up for about when I was 19, I think 20.
About 1920 is when you grew up past.
Yeah,
knew, hey, I got it.
I got him. Yeah, 21. He went into the military, and then I was 19, and I was like, I just hit 100 kilograms, which is 220.
Yeah.
Which is like a benchmark for a lot of light weightlifters and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I the other thing that I think is so difficult for a lot of people is they don't understand how your life changes in fitness, because it's not like being a baseball player. It's not like the mega stardom. And then, all of the acting, the Arnold role, dude, that is a lot of pressure. I mean, did you miss the little details? Do you remember? And I'm sure you do, but the weight of that fame must have been just unbelievable.
Yeah, it was a lot. I won't lie. But somehow I did kind of manage to just hold it all together, and I did have some good people around me, and like a manager that was helping, coordinate things, especially when it came to a schedule. Because I remember I was traveling. I think every month I was being in a different country for 1 or 2 years, doing expos and fitness events and competitions.
Yeah.
I actually remember Calum at a bunch of the fitness expos, like the Olympia, the Arnold, and people were lined up for 2 hours to meet this guy. And I was like, who is this guy? I mean, he's obviously got a great physique. He's a good looking guy. Yeah. And, and that's when I first met him. And in fact, our manufacturer actually manufactured his line with Staunch supplements at one time.
Yeah.
And so that's where I got introduced to Calum, and we've known each other now for
almost 8 years. I'd say it's 2016 or something.
2016. But lines and lines of people to meet these guys. And this is when expos were huge.
Yeah.
They've kind of shrunk just a little bit, but this is when they were at an all-time high
That was-
with Steve Cook.
Yeah, because it was the first time that
Phil Heath, all of them,
these athletes, bodybuilders, that all their fans could now come and meet them at a place, and there'd be a competition to get all these different supplements, free samples, and then you get like their inspirations that they'd get to, and everyone just
and they
line
get to
up for
take
hours.
pictures of
Take
you like
pictures.
crazy.
Yeah.
But I think that's where people change, though. When you think about that, like your ego can't help but expand. And I would say the same thing about having a company like Bucked Up or being the CEO of the year. Or your ego.
Absolutely, it fuels it, and in a sense, I think because I've always been tried to be very conscious of ego, and I've never liked cocky or arrogant people. Like I've always wanted to be just very cool and humble, and and just like well rounded like that. But I think there it gets to a point where you don't even realize when you get all these people just blowing smoke up your skirt, and you don't even realize how much attention and they glorify you and all that sort of stuff. And it's funny because like I don't know. I always kind of would it never really got to me per se. Like when people would be like, "Oh, you all this sort of stuff," I'd always just say, "Smile, thank you,"
Yeah.
But it never really really got to me. I think that what humbled me the most and what like really killed my ego was injuries.
Yeah.
And I think that is one of the things that really humbles you very fast. And it was like, because I always felt great when I would see, okay, I've got my physique. That was, unfortunately, that was for me like an identity for me, like having these, over the top muscles and a big physique. And it wasn't until I had my second, major injuries to my quadricep, my bicep and things. And you realize, like, when you're injured, that's when you really get humbled very quickly. Your ego's.
But we got to talk about being on cliff tops. Okay, listen. Listen, man.
I'm
getting a little bit sweaty here again.
I'm all for adventure.
He's already sweating.
Right? I'm all for adventure.
Yeah.
But so take me through that story, because the video in it, if you haven't seen Calum's YouTube channel, you need to go and see it, because the video, you almost feel like you're there because you're hanging off the side of this cliff. And then the next thing you know, you're screaming and yelling about breaking your knee. Yeah. And it's just like, holy shit, what is this guy going to, are you going to die? Are you going to, what was that moment like? Yeah. Beyond painful.
Not to relive it or
That's
anything.
all right.
Yeah, but
that's all right.
But I think what I think it's a huge moment in time, because I look at that, I look at the cliff top, and I look at the C-bum injury.
Yeah.
And I think those were two really critical moments. But that cliff injury where you're hanging off of this thing, man, that had to be a big moment in your life.
Absolutely. That was a huge defining moment, changing moment. That definitely, it's almost like that was like a fork in the road in a sense, where it's going to put me on a path. On a different path than perhaps what I would have preferred to be on initially. And that whole day, I remember the day so well, because it was the morning of an expo. It was a Sydney Fitness Expo, and my brothers, I had two older brothers who were in the military, who obviously I love and adore, and I missed them, and I always anyway, I hadn't seen them for a couple of years. They'd been serving and everything. Mm-hmm. And again, they decided they're like, hey, you want to go rappel off this cliff? I think one of my oldest brothers, and I was like, me and my cocky head at the time was like, if they can do it, I can do it too, type of thing, But
Calum, you lift. There's no problem.
Yeah, if they can do it, I can do it. Like I can keep up with them. I'm like, I'm not going to be like a chicken and say no or whatever. But really, I had no experience and no idea what I was in for. And it was we pulled up to this cliff top, this red cliffs in Sydney. It was a huge drop, like, I don't know, a couple of 100 meters, or like 400 or 500, 500 feet from the ocean floor. And we went over the fence, and I remember just looking down. My brother was like, there's like this little
Carabiner.
Carabiner thing in the rock, and with thing. Basically, and I remember just staring at it, looking at it, thinking, that's basically my whole life is resting in that little thing in a rock. I'm relying on this thing to hold me here. And anyway, so my brother was like, okay, so what are you going to do? Just, you're going to do this. And abseiled before, I think in year 10 at high school, a century ago or something.
Yeah.
So I remember I was pretty good, well-rounded. I was always good at sports and pretty, hand-eye coordinated, pretty good. So he told me what was going on. He said, you got to have this, like the carabiner, whatever, the rope goes in here. He goes, just pull the rope behind you or something, to slow it down, to stop the rope. And I was like, okay. Mind you, I was like 240 or 250 pounds.
You were big.
I was bulked up, ready to. So not the smart, like I wasn't even, in my head, I'm like, I don't feel, I'm just like here to rock climb. I'm not bodybuilder, I'm Calum Von rock climber.
Yeah.
I'm not bodybuilder mode, I'm rock climber mode. So I'm doing this right now. And I remember getting in there and I was just going over the edge of the cliff and I was like, I felt the gravity. I felt just my weight just pulling it down. I was like, shit, hit the brakes, like try to do it. And it just wouldn't slow down. And I just went over backwards and I let go and I thought I was going to die. I thought that's it. But it, like my leg, knee, so it's hyper extension. So I just basically was like this and then I bent all the way and it just popped my quad, like just basically popped my quad off the bone. And I was dangling upside down and just screaming like in the most excruciating pain. That was the worst pain ever, the tearing a quad.
Yeah.
And then I remember trying to grab the other rope with
your arm.
Yeah, to try and pull myself back up. And then I retore the bicep
That he did with
with
C-Bum.
C-Bum 6 months earlier. I retore it. So
yeah.
That was and then my brothers were able to grab my arms and just drag me back up the cliff. So
Man.
but that was a huge, life-changing moment. So from there, all of a sudden it's like, I've got to go from, able-bodied to now I'm in I was in a wheelchair for a little bit and had to, physical therapy was my
You're rehabbing.
my rehab for the next 6-8 months.
And you'd already shot the show Bigger, right?
Yes.
Prior to that.
That was 6 months
So
earlier.
he'd shot the show Bigger.
Just
In fact,
before.
when I really met you,
Was at the premiere.
was at the premiere, and I
year
sat
later.
right next to you,
Yeah.
and your leg was all in a brace.
Skinny
and,
and shit.
yeah,
And,
and you looked,
wow.
yeah.
Wow.
Lost a lot of weight.
Yeah, and I think those are the moments that define you.
Oh yeah.
Right? And then you get into this phase where now you're ready to come back, right? And you wind up having this accident. And what is it like to not have 6 days in your life? Because you fall out of this window, you injure your back, like you're severely injured. You're in a coma for what I think it was 6 days.
Yeah.
Something
yeah,
like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Do you remember the first moment where you woke up out of that? Do you remember falling out of the window? Do you, what is it? What is that like in your mind?
It's a good question. And it's all a little bit foggy because I wasn't doing it very well. Like I was going through battling some really tough demons in myself. And I was struggling a little bit with not necessarily per se like addiction, but just overuse with like drinking and drugs and stuff. And that was a terrible it was just a really rough, tough phase. And I actually don't remember. I don't remember that day, that night, whatever. All I remember, I think I was like trying to pack up my stuff, and
because you were battling with your parents, right?
Oh,
I mean,
I'd gotten into like some kind of an argument or something with them, but I'd taken everything out of context. They'd done nothing, or it was nothing. It was just me, and So and and I just remember I actually don't remember that night, but I do remember in the hospital waking up out of the coma.
Oh wow!
And I remember just having these all these cords and things on my neck, and I was just like waking up trying to pull them out, and then I realized I was in a bed, and I tried to get out, and I freaked out, pulled the cords out and everything, and then they were like, "You can't move."
Are you alone at this point? Are there people surrounding you? Are you by yourself?
By myself, I think. There's a nurse came in when I was just coming to, and I was trying to get out of the bed because I didn't know what the heck I was. I was trying to get out, and they ended up I think they tied me to the thing just to stay down. Hey, you got to sit tight and all that sort of stuff. So it was the weirdest time because I think I remember even having like in the like just weird dreams, even in the coma. Like I was remember like it was like 6 days, and
So you do remember. So your brain is still working. I'm fascinated by this.
yeah.
I'm not trying to be weird, but
no, that's all right.
you're asleep for 6 days, bro.
Yeah, I remember being in this coma, right? And I thought I kept seeing my little brother, and I was like in this. I was at my house, but I was in like a hospital bed in the house, and I kept seeing my little brother coming in and like coming in to see me and stuff like that. It was really bizarre, and I just wanted to get out. I was like, all I wanted to do was just get out of that place, and it was bizarre. But then I remember, I coming to and then waking up, and I was completely freaked out. I think there was other people in the ICU unit, and what else? I think I was.
The main question that comes to my mind is, at that moment, are you happy to be alive? Because you're in a place where you've never been, man. And by the way, you broke your back.
Yeah.
Like you broke your arm.
Yeah.
You're in a terrible spot. Yeah. This is not a good place. So are you happy to be alive? Like where's your mind?
Yeah, no, that's a good question, because I remember I remember laying there, and I was like kind of coming out in and out of this sleep, whatever, coma, and I was kind of freaking out, and then I just remember like, just breathe, just lay there, don't move. You can't go anywhere, and I just remember telling myself like, just breathe, like just take breaths, don't think about anything, just breathe, forget wherever you are, it doesn't matter. I just like calm myself down, just taking like really slow breaths, and then I realized I was like, shit, and I was like stoked to be alive, like because I never I'd never intended to hurt myself. It was just a complete freak like incident where I didn't want to. I mean, I completely regret, like I didn't want to be jumping out the window.
No, you weren't trying to kill yourself. I think,
no.
you were just going through this phase. And on your YouTube channel, one of the most powerful things I think you've ever talked about is going to rehab.
Yeah.
Going away, like getting yourself right, because you're this big, strong dude. You are a good-looking dude. You're what everybody wants to be.
Right.
Like you're this typical fitness guy, where you're this good-looking guy that everybody says, man, I want to be like Calum Von Moger. But the question was, did Calum want to be like Calum? And I think maybe that rehab you talked about on your YouTube channel, you got answers to that question, I felt like.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I think the rehab was such a great and a really good time and experience, especially coming right where I was. Like I really couldn't have, recommend that. It came at the right time at the right place, and it was. I mean, I guess it was. I remember my mum coming into me at the hospital bed saying, hey, Calum, would you consider going to rehab? And obviously being me and my mum's son and being stubborn and stuff, but I said, yes, I think I really need to go, because obviously this is a complete disaster. Where am I going? And like this path that I'm on right now is just going to lead to one place, either jail or death, or I'm either going to kill myself or end up in jail or something. Like this is the wrong path that I'm on. So Mum really said, hey, would you consider getting some help? And I was like, yeah. I never thought that I'd need that or say that, but I took that plunge and I was like, okay. And I found a really good place up in Queensland called Noosa Confidential. And I remember going up there, and it was such a great, like a really good experience, really good people. The rehabs in Australia are really fantastic. Like they do. And I actually had a friend of mine had recommended this place, and they start with your diet. Like they completely super clean. No
clean.
Sugar, no gluten.
Sugar, no caffeine, nothing.
Exactly.
No bucked up?
There's
No
no
bucked up. There's no bucked
completely
up there.
natural, the most cleanest diet. They start
Clean.
Then they have like acupuncturists. They have and then you'll see like a therapist or they have somatic expressive therapists. They'll have all these different like psychologists and therapists.
Yeah.
If you're those that you have a personal training, you'll do like nature walks, or they have animal therapy.
Take them shopping for food, like to make sure they're buying the best
The right stuff,
Yep.
exactly. So they just
To train them on buying in the future.
they just basically reprep, and they go, can they talk about your goals? when I was just about finishing, I was like, oh, I want to like completely. Like, I had this whole plan, like, all right, this is what I'm gonna go back to the States, gonna try and get back on my feet, and that's kind of. I mean, I managed. I've pulled through. I've been sober since then, and it's been it's like I think back and I'm like, wow, like I'll never like go touch any drugs or anything again. Like it's so
Okay,
good
last
not
heavy
having
question. I promise, last heavy question.
That's all right.
But I think hearing you talk about this stuff, I think is really powerful for people.
Yeah.
Because I think one of the other things that's so interesting is you talk about getting sober.
Yeah.
That again, so we've gone through injuries that changed ourselves. We've fallen out of windows that changed ourselves.
Yeah.
Were you who you thought you were when you got sober, in that moment where your mom comes to you? And you talk about that on YouTube as well, where you say, hey, that's my mom saying, hey, man, were you who you thought you were when you got out of rehab?
Who I thought I was.
Because think about it, and the reason I ask this question is, did you find yourself through that process? Because you don't seem like the same guy. At least when you came out of rehab, you seemed like a different guy. You just looked different. You had life in your eyes, it seemed like. And now that you've reemerged, you sitting here in front of me, you seem like a vibrant, explosive human being, man. Like I'm excited to see you. So I wonder, are you happy with who you are? Is this what you thought you could be?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think it's really what it did for me is it really just kind of calmed me down a lot and just helped me really just take life in strides and not trying to like basically take everything in too much or trying to basically take on more than I could really handle. Because I think for a lot of the times I'd really overladen myself or overburdened myself with a lot of things. And, coming out of, out of the rehab, it really helped me recognize that, hey, you've put so much pressure on yourself for the last decade with social media, bodybuilding, events, people, so much you've given out, you've poured your cup into other people's, you've filled up everyone else's cup for so long, and you've just done whatever you had to do to survive, to keep yourself going. You can give yourself a break. And that was when for about 6 months where I just took some time off and I kind of guess I really needed it because I was just burnt out from all of the noise and everything, all going on around me. It was just a lot. So I think I really just needed a cool period, like a down.
Yeah, and now what I like is it's all about balance for him. So he's talked about balance. He has a line of clothing line, apparel, but it's all about being balanced in life, which I like, not being too extreme one way or the other. Even with bodybuilding, we find a lot of bodybuilders super extreme on eating and competition and the way they look, super extreme. And now it's more about balance, which I really like that he has that view on life.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can definitely comment on that as well. Is like in the past, going back before injuries, like I really looked at myself as just like I felt like I was just a bodybuilder. But now that labels, I feel like there's a lot more reach and range for me instead of just I feel like I've pulled myself out of that pigeonhole of being just a bodybuilder and kind of one dimensional and just kind of on one track mind like that. Now I feel like I've got a lot more versatile kind of thoughts and approaches to all sorts of different things. Anytime I come out to Utah with Ryan and his family stuff, we always play different sports or different activities and and it's beautiful just to have that kind of broader range of insight and everything. But peeling off that label, that bodybuilder label was.
He might be a professional pickleball when this is all said and done.
Watch those quads, man.
Yeah, I know.
Pickleball, get those quads. But the word that's probably most apropos in my mind is now you're really an influencer.
Right.
Before you were an influencer, but now you have a 3-year-old son. Mm-hmm. What does Los Angeles mean to you? Because it's so interesting in your story and again, watching you tell your story on social and YouTube. Los Angeles has had such a profound impact, both positively and negatively on your life. Yeah. Now you're in LA, you have a 3-year-old that obviously you talked about wanting to, have an impact on his life and whatnot. What is that situation been like for you?
Oh, that's been an extremely difficult one, to be honest. You know, I've got a 3-year-old, and I would as much like, and it's been hard because you know because had such a busy schedule and I was always moving around traveling. It's hard to be in his life as much as I'd like to be with all that I have going on, and it hasn't been easy. Just even on like handling with with his mother, it's been a very difficult situation. It's not an easy one to handle, and so at this point in time, I don't really get to see him very often. My family all really want to see him and get to know him and stuff, and I really hope that he's going to be in my life.
Jake and I went through the same thing. So Jake's my son, by the way.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
That's
we went through the exact same thing.
Really?
And yeah, Jake did not live with me until his freshman year in high school.
Really?
So we're from Chicago.
Yeah.
And he's and you guys are really smart dudes. I'm 50. He's 30. So if you do some quick math, I had him when I was 20. So yeah. So I went, and the hard part was for me is I lived in LA.
Yeah.
And he was in Chicago.
Yeah.
The unknown used to drive me
Insane.
fucking crazy. Like you just don't know. And we had, not to go too far into it, but like I'd call him and I'd get hung up on. Or we'd have to have a serious conversation, and then maybe I would get 30 seconds on the phone with my son. Like the unknown absolutely made me crazy.
Absolutely. That's what I've been handling. And especially in California, where it's like, it is so crazy because I'm handling with the child support and the custody and stuff. And unfortunately, I feel like the mum's kind of holding cards against me with even with the,
California's got some tough laws.
It's like tough laws, and it's like, and it's cost me hundreds and thousands.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, because I was in a really good position. Like when I a couple of years ago, I was making good money, but unfortunately, I had to pay all my attorney fees, all of her attorney fees, and it just like started racking up these huge bills.
Yeah.
Which just puts more pressure and more stress on you.
Yeah, that's just and then it kind of like it
snowballs.
Honestly, it snowballs, and it really kind of bugged me because I was like, I don't know. It's like no one can prepare for this. No one can. You just got to go in, and then I've dealt with like dodgy lawyers who are just all taking advantage. Like they're all trying to get their their pound of flesh as well, and their piece and stuff. So
and there's no textbook, dude. There's no manual that says, okay, step A, step B. Like it quite literally is write a check or wire some money and maybe something will happen. It's the worst thing in the world.
Yeah,
so with your son, how long did it take, or when did you get?
Oh man, the funny thing is, it was probably 10 years of just battling. And I had lawyer's fees. I flew back to Chicago, and again, not oversharing, but my son's mother tried to have him adopted without telling me.
Oh my goodness!
And so we went back to court because I was trying to get partial custody. So I moved I married a queen way over my head. We moved back to Chicago. We go to court to get custody, and they said to us, "Well, what is this adoption action?" And I'm standing there looking at a judge like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Wow.
That's where it changed because the judge said you lied and you tried to take this guy's son from him. And so everything changed. And then Jake did it on his own. He came to Sacramento. And again, you want to talk about child support. Not that you guys care about this, but
it's irrelevant for me.
I never missed one.
I know.
I never missed a child support payment ever. Took my driver's license away in California because my ex said, hey, he's not paying me.
Right.
And then I proved it, and then they reinstated my driver's license. Only after I got a ticket, and a really understanding California highway patrolman was like, okay, I'm going to cut you a break.
Right.
And that's when it got serious. But he came and he said to me, why don't you pay child support? My son, who I'm trying to get to know, my 10-year-old, says to me, why aren't you paying child support? Why aren't you taking care of me? And so I said, enough of this, dude. Like I showed him check stubs. At that time, like when we all used to write checks.
Right.
Remember that?
Yeah.
I kept every one in a Ziploc bag. And I kept a file on it, and I showed it to him, and that was it. And then 2 years later, he came out I took him to Disneyland.
Yeah.
And he went home and he said, I'm moving. I'm going to high school in LA.
See,
That's
take
it.
10 years.
It's a grind.
I mean, he's been going through a battle with his.
Because it's been a
battle.
it's been a
It's
exactly
mentally
with-
taxing on him as
So-
well. So.
Yeah,
So
of course.
full on.
But you know what? The best advice I would give you,
Yeah.
and what I did is,
Yeah.
I called. My deal was every Wednesday and every Sunday I'd call my son.
Yeah.
And
What age?
her-
How old when you started calling him?
from 5 to 10, 11, 12,
Yeah,
until
he's
he was old enough that I could give him his own cell phone.
Yeah. Sure.
That's
Yeah.
but it would be, hello, hey, it's me, click. Like the new guy in her life would click, hang up on me every Tuesday, every Sunday.
Oh my goodness.
And he would never know that I was calling. So I would send, like, he used to love professional wrestling. So I'd send these toy figures. They sold them on eBay.
Yeah.
Instead of like, it just was stuff like that. But you have to do you.
Yeah.
Because if you get hit by a truck tomorrow,
Yeah.
you need to be able to say to yourself, hey, I did everything I could do. I fought. The money is the money, and you'll never get away from it. But if you do you, your son's going to come to a point where he's going to say to you,
realize.
why didn't you pay your child support? And you're going to say, yeah, I did.
That's why I just want to put it all in a trust. Like I've been trying to get it in a trust, and unfortunately, I've had to sell I'm putting my house in the market right now. I've had to sell my house to catch up with all these lawyer fees and everything. But but the one thing with I'm trying to get I'm trying to get a settlement. But I think one of the things is, I want to put a settlement like $100,000 aside for his child support for the next couple of years, so that at least he's got that cushion for when. But again, like I've talked to my parents and they're like, well, why can't we just like put a trust, or I'm trying to get everything in so that he's got, because a lot of the money, the child support that I pay, it doesn't go to him.
No, it doesn't.
No,
and
it
you're
doesn't
never
go to
going to
him
be
at
able
all.
to fix that.
Exactly.
You're never going to be able to fix
you
that,
know,
man.
and
Yeah,
it's just-
mentally, it's just hard.
Exactly.
But man, don't give up.
Yeah.
Don't, because he's
That's
worth
what I
it.
say.
He's worth it.
I just
You're worth
writing
it.
journal. I just write letters to him. Like I've been writing so that one day I can just give him a book of these
Yeah.
letters that I've written to him.
Yeah.
And then just to show him like, hey, like, I've got a journal. Well, hopefully I'll see him in the future and stuff. And
You will.
so-
It's not hopefully.
Well,
You
yeah,
will.
that's right, yeah,
You know,
just the time.
you deserve it.
Yeah.
You deserve it. So just trust me, man.
Yeah.
Do it.
I just want to give him the best. I just wish I had him with me,
Yeah.
to give him raise him, because he needs all boys, little boys, they all need
Yes.
father figure, a role model, someone to show them hey, it's all right to get your hands dirty, rough up a little bit, because without the a male role model, you're gonna have a wussy boy growing up
Yeah.
or something. You need to have some. Because I had older brothers, and my dad would take me fishing, take me hunting, take me, play football, rugby, all that sort of stuff, and all that sort of thing. And I look at it like, damn, he's getting he's missing out on some. I mean, he's 3 now, but I'd love to I wish I could have him and just say, hey, let's go chase after these animals.
There's no other you, dude.
Yeah.
You're you. There's nobody that's ever going to step in and be dad.
Right.
You can't. And we are. Me and my son are clones of each other.
Right.
And I'll tell you, it used to drive his mom crazy. It used to drive her crazy. But you know what, man? That perseverance is something you talk about a lot. And that's what you're going to have to do. And I wrote down a quote where you said, live in the now, be here. I think that's what you have to do. Because you'll drive yourself crazy, man.
Oh, there's no point. I'd say why do we borrow worry from the future? It's like one of my therapists once said, it's like you're just borrowing, when you're getting anxious, you're just borrowing worry from the future. You don't need to do that. Just live in the present now, and just and that way, because when we think about tomorrow's and next week's, it doesn't even exist.
Yes.
Next week doesn't exist. The past doesn't exist. The past, if you're living in the past, you could become depressed. If you're living in the future, become anxious. But if you're living right now in the present, you're okay.
David Goggins,
his
most powerful thing I think he's ever said is, many dreams die while suffering.
Right.
And whether that is a Navy SEAL in the water, or whether that is where is my 3-year-old right now, and you're spending so much of this time in the future thinking about he'll never love me, I'll never know him. All it's doing is pushing down your future.
That's right.
And it's killing your desire to live. Because one day, I promise you, you guys are going to be together. And it's going to be amazing, and you'll
Please,
think
lucky
you're
guys.
it'll be. And you guys, trust me, like us, we work together. Don't go into business with your family, please, God. But, right? Like I don't have to tell you that, right? Like, but trust me, one day you guys will be together, and you'll remember this conversation or the lawyer's bills or selling your house, and it'll all be worth it. Because you guys will be hand in hand. So,
thank you.
yeah, no, Ryan, let's talk a little bit about your relationship to Calum. Like why Bucked Up and Calum? Why is that a good match for you guys?
Well, I do have to say, and I'm not blowing smoke up anybody's skirt, but Calum is really humble guy. He's a genuine dude. In fact, when my wife first met him, she's just like, man, he's got the it factor, and he's just the nicest guy. And that's what we like, because that's relatable to us at Bucked Up as well. So we feel like he's very relatable. People love him. I have to tell this story. We went to the DMV because he was going to move here, and no lie, the girls behind the counter were like, he walked in and they're looking at him. The one girl's like, you. Come up here. We skipped all the lines, went right up to the front. He started talking, and all the girls around the counter is like looking over like, what? Who is this?
Yeah.
And she's like, you're putting off this Viking vibe. And, he's, but really he's got the it factor. And, and that's what we want. We want some influence. We're looking at picking up a bunch of different influencers to help with brand awareness and education on our brand. Calum was a perfect fit for us. I knew him from a long time ago, always super nice to us. And you know what? I love a comeback, and I really said, hey, I would love to be part of your comeback and part of your story, and we would like you to be part of our brand. And so that's what we did. And we brought you some of his flavors of Bucked Up pre-workouts and in Banff and Bucked Up. But he's been awesome to work with, super nice. We're like, hey, we got this expo, or we got this meet and greet at this place in Colorado this last weekend. Boom, he's on a plane, he's there, and he's just been a great partner to work with. So
yeah, and one of the things I think is so interesting about what you guys are doing right now is you talk about partnering with influencers, like this bare knuckle fighting that you were part of this weekend. Like that was one of the wildest things. That's one of the So you guys have NASCAR, you have a rodeo team, but why bare knuckle fighting, and how did that happen?
Believe it or not, we actually kept trying to get into the UFC, but Monster, Celsius, Prime, they all kept, it was Body Armor at the time, but they all kept preventing us from doing this. And in fact, Power Slap came up, and we were like, yeah, we're in. And Monster said, no, they're not. We're in. We'll pay you more than Bucked Up will. And so really, we wanted to be part of Power Slap. In fact, I went to a Power Slap event last Wednesday. It was awesome, but they're crazy. I don't know why anybody would allow somebody to hit you straight in the face. I don't know. But they get eyeballs, and it gets brand awareness. And so that's what we did, is we just said, hey, what else is trending really well? And these bare knuckle fights just kept coming up, and they actually reached out to us and said, hey, we don't necessarily, we're kind of the up and comers, and we know that you guys are up and comers, and we would like to partner with you guys. And so we sponsored the bare knuckle fighting, BKFC. And the very next week, Conor McGregor showed up to one of the BKFC events. We're like, man, this is crazy timing. And it was like a UFC event. I'd been to several UFC events. I went to this bare knuckle fighting event, and it was the electricity, the energy inside that arena was just like a UFC event. Then we ended up doing because we did a big partnership with the BKFC. Then Bryce Hall got told, we got told Bryce Hall is going to be fighting in the BKFC, and we're like, oh, this TikToker,
YouTube superstar,
TikToker guy, come on, like, what? This is like another Jake Paul. Well, we said, hey, we're going to take a chance, and we bet on the right horse again with BKFC with Bryce Hall, and the chances of him beating Guy was unbelievable, because we had been to a bunch of events and watched Guy, and he is an unbelievable fighter, and for Bryce Hall to beat him, it was unreal. Like, that just made it, and then it just went viral. Like,
but it's not
billions of views.
One of the things that makes me crazy in business, and I pretend to be an entrepreneur, but as somebody building a business, there's no such thing as luck. if you will grind and you will work hard, Conor McGregor is going to accidentally show up at an event, or you're going to run into a Calum, or there's no such thing, in my opinion. There's no such thing as luck, and I think you're you're the reigning Utah CEO of the year.
Yep.
Like, that's not luck.
Yeah.
Right? That's hard
It's
work.
a lot of hard work. And I 100% agree with you.
Yeah.
You know, I was born and raised on a farm in Clearfield, Utah, which is by Layton. And we got taught to work really, really hard. In fact, you know, we even say the harder we work, the luckier we get. And it just seems like luck keeps finding us, you know, but it's being in the right spot with the right opportunity, and then, you know, working hard to get to that spot.
And if you surround yourself with the right people, by the way, it doesn't hurt when you
getting better.
Yeah. And I that's what I think is so wild about what you guys do. You don't, and I know that you take losses or you have things that don't work out. Very clearly, every businessman does.
Yep.
But you guys have found yourself in some really nice places. Like, what is the key to your success at Bucked Up? Because you guys are no longer the try-hard energy guys. You're no longer the deer antler guys. You guys are a force. You guys are a nutrition brand. So what has been the key to that? Like I asked Calum, when did you know?
Well, it's funny how we've transitioned, because at the first, it's all about hard work, making sure, pushing your brand, being at expos, being everywhere that you possibly can. And then I think it changed when we said, you know what, in order to get to the next level, we have to hire the right people. And we actually hired the former CEO of Dr. Pepper Snapple to help us with our distribution network. For our energy drinks. We went from selling 4 million cans of energy drinks to 20 million cans the very next year. And now we're going to probably sell 55 to 60 million cans this year. And that's huge. You know, it's
amazing.
It's now we've kind of, you know, like what you say is, hey, what was really it? Actually, it's all these partnerships that we've made along the way that's helped us get to this point in time.
Yeah.
And it really is working with the right people, making the right partnerships, and helping, you know, a lot of people have helped us get to this point, which has been nice. It's like, because it's not just me.
Yeah.
It's a whole team effort of partnerships with, you know, big, like bare knuckle fighting with, you know, just the team that we have at Bucked Up. They're huge. It's been great. We have the right people.
Yeah, but you and your brother got to wear name tags, dude. Like, I walked into your warehouse sale. I walked into your warehouse sale, and I was like, "Hey, Ryan," and he's like, "Nah, dude, he's over there." Like,
So I do have a twin brother that we did. You know, we founded and run Bucked Up, and prior to that, we owned an affiliate marketing company, and we were driving traffic for a bunch of people. And we finally got smart and decided to do it for our own.
Yeah.
You know, so that's really what happened.
Well, you guys are great stories. Obviously, we appreciate all the support you give to us, and our listeners. Our listeners love your love. I mean, the buckshot. I got to tell you, of all those millions of cans, please make more Miami, because it's always sold out.
Miami is a tough one to keep in stock, for sure.
It's good. It's so good.
It is. That, and I will also tell you, my wife's training for a triathlon, and she uses all of your proteins, your endurance product.
Yep.
She loves the endurance product. Like I say on the show every day, Bucked Up, it works. It's quality ingredients that work.
Yeah, that's right.
Because I think the stigma that I always had about pre-workouts, I rarely found a pre-workout, and Calum, you could probably relate to this. I rarely find a pre-workout that does what I need it to do.
Right.
No matter if it's high stim, low stim, like, your stuff just works, man.
Yeah, and I think that's really what says about our brand, is that we're putting out really high quality products, but they also taste great at the same time, and they work. Like you say, they work.
The Monty Show.